Congresswoman Louise Slaughter has joined the list of growing politicians who don't want the facts to get in the way of a perfectly good agenda. She was appalled after the shooting, disturbed, angry. Not at the shooter, no, that would make too much sense. Instead, she's really angry at talk radio. Quote, "Frankly, what I'd like to see is if we can get all together on both sides of the aisle, Democrats and Republicans, to really talk about what we can do to cool down the country. Part of it has to be what they're hearing over the airwaves." Well, ex-Representative Paul Kanjorski is doing his part today in the New York Times. He's calling for civility and respect. He is so right. Today, on October 23rd, when he was running for campaign, he said this, quote, "That Scott down there, it's running for governor of Florida. Instead of running for governor of Florida, they ought to have him shot. Put him against the wall and shoot him. He's no hero, he's a damn crook." So, pay no attention to that. That was a campaign. What? No. We need civility. That's fantastic. Now back to, what's her name? Slaughter. Why the violent last name, Congresswoman? We should talk about your last name. It's a verb. See what I'm saying? What she wants to do is she wants to talk about the violent rhetoric. Okay. And she says if we stop people talking, well, then it'll all be fixed. And you know what that is, may I say, Congressman? I'm just going to call you the S word because I don't want anybody to act out on your last name. Is a husband who has an unhappy wife because the sister-in-law is talking to the unhappy wife. And so she's making his life miserable. And he says, stop talking to the sister-in-law. Makes sense until you find out he's got a hot mistress on the side, and that's what the sister-in-law is telling the wife. You see, Congress doing something to piss off us. And us in talk radio and Fox News, we're just telling you, the American people, they got a hot mistress. You don't silence the friend or the sister-in-law, because it's not the friend or the sister-in-law's fault. It's what used to be called don't shoot the messenger. Oh, did I just say the word shoot and do this? I'm sorry, I didn't mean anything. Please don't shoot anybody. How is anybody misconstruing this? The American people, I guess, are too stupid to handle phrases like these. We're going to keep fighting. Whose ass to kick? If they bring a knife, we bring a gun. We're going to punish our enemies. You can't say these things. When you do, apparently, you'll start knifing people at will. That's what Louise Slaughter wants banned. Well, actually, not these things, because these are all things that in this last election period, President Obama said. He said all these things. Why the violence? Why the violent rhetoric? Oh, again, I'm asking somebody whose last name, Louise Slaughter, is violent rhetoric. What was I thinking? Maybe instead we should listen to somebody who actually has something to say of meaning and a reason for us to listen. The father of the 9-year-old girl that was lost on Saturday in violence. Rather than Louise Slaughter, he may have a better understanding of the situation. She can't see her way past the regulations, but what does the father say who lost his 9-year-old daughter on Saturday? What does he say today?
We had 9 beautiful years with her. I know she wouldn't want things to change. Would not want restrictions. I saw what happened to our lives, specifically because I travel quite a bit. After 9/11, travel became a nightmare. Don't need any more restrictions on our society.
Back in a minute. You're not going to believe Thursday's show. I don't know if you've noticed this at all. In the last 6 months, we have changed much of the imagery on this because I have personally changed in the last year. I've changed in the last 5 years. But in the last 6 months, we've put some imagery of Gandhi and Martin Luther King on the show. And believe it or not, I've gotten heat from some people because I don't include Jesus, but I do. This isn't for you. This is for me as well. We're in tough times, and I've asked myself, who am I going to follow? Am I going to follow somebody like MLK or Bill Ayers? Who am I going to be? Somebody like Gandhi or Bill Ayers? I choose these guys and Jesus Christ. That's it. And that has led me to do a lot of introspection. And that's led me to this solution, the E4. This is where we're going this year, E4. Last year we focused on faith, hope, and charity. This year we're focusing on making the changes within. Meanwhile, the left is exploiting the crisis, and there'll be another one after this for political gain, and they'll exploit and exploit and exploit, and whether it's for oil or power, or shutting the media down, whatever, they'll do it. They just need a crisis that they can benefit from. It took all of 48 hours for Congressman James Clyburn on this crisis to ramp up the fairness doctrine again. But mark my words, it won't go through Congress. It'll just happen through regulation. Stand guard. There are enemies within inside the gates that believe in the taking away of free speech at the FCC. He made the case today that back in the good old days of the 60s and the 70s and the 80s, when we had the fairness doctrine, everything was great. Yeah, it's true. When we dreamed that we saw the bomber death planes riding shotgun in the sky, turning into butterflies above our nation, oh, we were stardust. We were golden. We were billion-year-old carbon, and we had to get ourselves back to the garden. Oh, while we were saying stupid stuff like that, also JFK, RFK, and MLK were all assassinated. Not to mention George Wallace, and then Ronald Reagan being shot. And then I think somebody tried to shoot Gerald Ford twice, too. All in 20 years. All with the fairness doctrine in place. You see how much good it did to limit free speech? Our founders knew this. So, while they talk about those things, stand guard, watch the FCC, and my focus will be this. To find the solution in you, make you better. I'm not going to find it in you, you are. In turn, your family will be better, which will turn your neighborhood better, and it'll turn your city, and so on and so on. It's limited government. It is the smallest. Control starts here. But it will take courage. And that's where I want to go next. Courage. I want to challenge Washington on something. Courage. Specifically, next.